Welcome back, everyone. Mariah Monetize here. In today's video, I am going to be speaking with Robert, the flip-flopper of Puerto Rico.
The flip-flop flipper.
Flip-flop flipper. Oh, shoot. My bad.
That's okay. That's
should we
great.
start
The
again?
flip-flopper. I love it. No, we love that.
Anyway, so Robert is, in my opinion, an expert when it comes to real estate on the island from many different perspectives. He has so much to teach and so much experience to share. And I believe you're putting out the best content right now on YouTube when it comes to real estate. I'm like addicted to your videos.
That's so cool.
I'm getting ready in the morning. I'm listening to your videos. And so you present things extremely well. You're so generous with all the expertise that you have. And I think one thing that we really have in common is that we are hardcore rooting for Puerto Rico.
I mean, that is the reason that we started the channel, was to invite people and to just kind of spotlight Puerto Rico, right? Invite people to partner with us, invite people to come to the island and just showcase great entrepreneurs, right? There's so much talent here on the island, and it's a really cool time to be on the island. So, yeah.
And so, yeah, I think we have that common like drive behind putting out content is we want to see this place grow and thrive, and we see the opportunity, which is massive.
Yeah.
And we want to see, you know, locals also benefit and be a part of what's happening here and just see this place develop and grow over time. So, yeah, thanks for allowing me to do this. I'm excited to learn from you. I've already been learning from you, and I want to show my audience this other perspective of all the opportunity on the real estate side. I talk so much about Bitcoin and that part, but you bring such a great element of the real estate side of things. So summarize what you do here on the island.
Yeah. Okay. Well, cool. Thank you so much for everything that you just said, because that was super kind. And I am addicted to your videos too. And I watch both channels. I didn't realize it was two channels though. But I first found you with the fasting stuff, and then I've really been following you ever since that Celsius thing happened. So what we do on the island, so we're real estate investors, and for 25 years, that's what I have done. We buy distressed property. I like to take buildings that don't have a use or that are sitting vacant and really not performing or being used for anything, and then fix them up. We call it value add investing. Find their highest and best use, and then increase cash flow by, you know, once you've got them renovated, you put people in and you start collecting rents. And so that's become our go-to way of investing, and Puerto Rico offers a lot of that, right? Like, so as you are around the island, you'll see, no matter where you're at, no matter the neighborhood, whether it's good or bad or on the ocean or in the mountains, there's always something nice and there's always something that's distressed. And so we look for that distress, and we like to take a building and put it back into use. And that is what we do on the island. So
nice. So what drew you to Puerto Rico? Like, your journey started in Florida,
yeah,
right? Investing there. So what kind of put Puerto Rico on the radar for you?
Yeah, that's a great question. So 2015 or 16, our business kind of took a step back. Like, we were doing 120 properties or investments a year. And in 2015, we did about 85. Then in 16, we did about 70. And then by like 2017, I only did like 60 or 54, I think, 54 investments. So that was like 50% less than we were used to. And so I was looking for a market, and it came down to, I was either going to go to like Chicago, Illinois, Indianapolis, Indiana, or Puerto Rico. Those were the three. And then Hurricane Maria happened, and we've been through 6 hurricane cycles in Florida. And so I had an idea that I knew what was about to happen, right? Like, it's a 5-year cycle, at least it had been. Whenever a named storm comes somewhere, you get this initial devastation, and then by the end of 5 years, you see a really flourishing economy and building and stuff. And it's proven to be true here as well. So I pat myself on the back a little bit that I saw that. And so that it made it easy, right? Like, I don't like the cold. I really didn't want to go up to Chicago or Indianapolis. And it's warm and beautiful. And once we came here, it wasn't just that there was opportunity in real estate. It was that the money would go further. There was opportunity in real estate, but there was also an opportunity that was going to come because the economy was coming out of a decades-long recession. So I am a big fan of starting businesses in down economies. I think that is a ticket to success. If you can be successful when times are tough, then when times get better, your business grows, right? So that was sort of the idea of why we came to Puerto Rico.
That's one thing that I try to remind myself on the weekly when it comes to timing, because I moved to Puerto Rico 6 months after Maria, and I thought it was a very terrifying time to buy real estate. As someone who had no experience in real estate, it seemed like a scary time to buy.
Yeah.
And looking back now, that was ultimately the best time to buy. And so that's something that I try to remind myself, that when those devastating times happen, it's the time. And it's played out for you well.
It worked really well for us that time, right? And we had recently been through this devastation in 2008, right? So I had seen that sort of what happens when the market crashes, and then I went broke, and then we invested at the right time to come back up, right, in 2010. And so when I got here, I thought, oh my God, this is 2010 again, and I just saw this movie play out. So I kind of, again, I felt like I had an idea of what was going to happen, and it played out really, really well, far too good, right? When you start a business, you expect to have some problems, and of course we did. But everything that could go right sort of went right for us, and it was really a blessing from God that we were in the right place at the right time.
Yeah.
And that was really fun to start a business from scratch and to see it sort of grow and flourish really pretty quickly, right?
Yeah, absolutely. So you do some short-term, long-term, commercial stuff as well. What is currently working out the best at this time, and how has that kind of fluctuated over time?
Yeah, so we came here with the idea that we would buy distressed properties and fix up single family houses and sell them, and that we would buy small multifamilies and fix them up and rent them. That was sort of our twofold business. And then in between, we thought we could buy some stuff and just sell it quickly, so do the traditional wholesale. And we did that the first year or so, and then we started being offered bigger properties and turning them into hotels through what was Act 74 back then. I didn't come here for that. I didn't know anything about that, but you kind of take what the island gives you, and that has worked really well for us. One day we hope that we're going to get some tax credits from that. So far we haven't, but even so, we now have some hospitality projects around the island, and that's our preferred sort of, that's often the highest and best use for us when we find a distressed building in an area like the metro area or somewhere else where there's tourism that it can be tourism centric, right? So we probably wouldn't do it in areas that aren't near the beach or aren't near El Yunque or something like that. But if there's going to be a large amount of tourism and we can take a 9-unit building that's been sitting empty for 10 years and turn it into a small guest house, 7 rooms to 25 rooms is our sort of preferred path forward, because they're easy to manage and they really throw off a lot of good revenue. So, and eventually we'll get the 40% tax credits. So.
And so tell me more about the 40% tax credits on that particular, I don't know if it's a particular property you're speaking on. And so you weren't able to receive that because of paperwork that wasn't filed, or are you saying tax credits in general that are being advertised on the island? Yeah,
so it used to be called Act 74, and now everything's in Act 60. And what it is through the tourism company of Puerto Rico. They're trying to grow that as a part of the GDP, right? It's about 6% of the GDP right now on the island, and they're going to bring that up to 15%. So we have about a third or 25% of the amount of hotel rooms on the island, or we did 5 years ago, as like the Dominican Republic. And so there's a massive ask for people to invest in that kind of property. And when you set up a guest house and you do it properly and you jump through all the hoops, dealing with the government of Puerto Rico is not particularly easy, and it doesn't go fast, but they will give you some pretty cool incentives. The biggest one is 40% tax credits on your investment. So if for instance, the Surfing Turtle is a property that was a multifamily in Luquillo, and we took a 4-unit long-term rental property that was vacant and in very bad condition and turned it into a really cool boutique 7-room guest house. And so we have a little over $500,000 invested in it, and we'll get tax credits back on. And that'll be the first one that we'll get the tax credits back on. But during the time that we're waiting, it throws off a bunch of cash. It's a great investment. Without the tax credits, we would do it anyway.
Yes.
And that's what's so cool about Puerto Rico, is that everything that we do works without the tax credits. And then the fact that they're going to allow us to take advantage of that, I mean, who are we to say no, right? Like,
Absolutely.
and the other thing is that Act 60 gets a bad rap in that there's a portion of it that the local population can't be a part of. The Act, it used to be 22, but tourism isn't that. Like what was Act 74, tourism tax credits are available to everyone on the island. If you've lived here your whole life, or if you've moved away and you're moving back, it doesn't matter, right? If you invest in and turn something into a hotel, create a hotel and create jobs and jump through the hoops, you get to pay very little income tax. It's like 10 cents on the dollar on your income tax, and property taxes, and 40% tax credits. So
Yeah, I'm so grateful that you brought that to light, because someone that's been here for 5 years, I was also confused in some senses on exactly who was qualified and able to participate in the tax incentives. And you highlight that so much on your channel, which is something that it's unfortunate that so many locals here are unaware that they have those opportunities, as well as the Young Entrepreneurs Act, being under 35, not paying taxes on that first $500,000 in revenue, which is amazing. And I mean, like, you know, we're both rooting for Puerto Rico, and it's those things that can, you know, elevate the island faster and get things moving.
Yeah, that's what's so unfortunate, is that the Act 60 gets this bad rap, and it's like, I hear it time and again, well, we don't qualify for that. Only the people from the states can do that. And it's just not true. I mean, there's one portion of it that if you're buying and selling Bitcoin, that the locals who've lived here their whole lives are excluded. And I think that's poorly written, right? Like, I don't understand why that couldn't be changed to include people. But because that one thing excludes people, the whole thing gets kind of thrown against the wall, and people believe that it's not for them. And so we try to put it out there that it is for them, and that there's a ton of opportunity here. So
yeah, I see it every single day. It's like every corner I turn, every street I walk down, it's like opportunity everywhere. So you have mentioned before that I believe you started real estate at some point with very little money.
Yeah. And
so what advice would you have for someone who doesn't have a lot of money to get started in real estate, and if they're approaching Puerto Rico with anywhere from $0 to $10,000, what would be the route to take?
Awesome. I love that question, because I that's one of the things that I love about real estate, is that through leverage and through hard work, anybody can be a real estate investor, right? Like, so I didn't have a silver spoon. We weren't poor, but we were lower middle class, I would say, growing up. So when it came time for me to become a real estate investor, I scraped together $3,000, basically borrowed the last $3,000 that my wife had hidden away, and partnered with some people who also had $3,000, and we put $10,000 together and bought a house in a really bad area back in 1997, I think. And so I did that because I had seen on television that you could start real estate with very little money down or no money. And I was just young and dumb, and I believed that you could do it. If someone else could do it, I could do it. And it's still true today. It's even more true today. Like, you can become a real estate investor really with no money at all. If you're willing to get out and look at everything that's for sale around your area. So we would call it a farm area. And so I would say if you're listening to me and you're living in Puerto Rico, and you drive around the town that you're in and call on everything, you'll be able to come up with what things are going to sell for when they're in good shape, what they sell for when they're in bad shape. And if you call on enough things, you're going to find something that kind of is an outlier, and it's below market. And then if you put that under contract, even if you don't have money, you can then find someone who does. So I think, to answer your question directly, starting out as a wholesaler, contracting properties, and then finding someone who's got some money to either partner with you or to flip it to. So is that helpful?
Absolutely.
Yeah,
Absolutely. So you would say, kind of, if someone is looking to maybe keep an eye on their surrounding market, get a feel for it, and understand price fluctuations and find those outliers. That would be a good place to start. In Puerto Rico specifically, if you're trying to track real estate, is there a specific app? Like, what is the best approach for that?
Yeah, it's hard work. Like, there's not great data.
Okay.
And you probably are aware of that. That Puerto Rico's sort of, if I buy something today, it's unlikely to be made public for months, if not longer, right? So, and the difference is, if I buy something in Florida, Orlando, Florida, if I buy it on a Monday, it's probably out there on the public records certainly by Friday, right? Like, so it's almost instant. And so I can go on Zillow and I can put in an address in Florida and it'll tell me what the Zestimate is and what the rents could be. If you do the same thing in Puerto Rico, you just get nothing, right? They don't tell you anything because they don't have the data. So there's either hard work and calling realtors and networking, and the island is really a lot of who you know and partnering with people that are in the know. There is a couple of sites that you can go on. Tasamax is the one that we've used once or twice. It's as close as what I could find. Like, we use CoreLogic a lot in the States, and Tasamax is a very similar thing. It will give you sold comps and it will give you some of the data, but a lot of times it's just sort of slow, right? Like, you don't know what happened last week. You can know what happened 6 months ago, but so those are the two things, right? It's either find a good realtor in the area that you're looking at, maybe use Tasamax. There's a really cool app that Adon uses called the Regrid app that you can be in front of a building and put in, and it'll tell you who owns it, what they paid for it. So you can get some really cool information, and I think it's free. It's called Regrid. So those three things.
Okay.
Those three things can
Place
be very
to start,
helpful. Yeah, it's a good place to start.
information.
Nothing beats just calling on everything that's for sale. And especially in Puerto Rico, like, you can go look at a condominium with a realtor and ask that realtor if there's anything else in this building for sale. And you'll almost certainly be told either no or I don't know. Because if, let's say there are 5 things in the building for sale, they're only selling the one, right? It's not a true MLS system. They're not sharing the information. It's a little bit of the Wild West here. So I like that as a real estate investor because I love to look at real estate, and we just try to look at everything. So that's really the advice that I make, is just look at everything and call on everything. So
got it. Okay, good. I'm enjoying how much I'm learning, because for me, I've always been interested in real estate here on the island. It's been a little overwhelming.
Yeah.
One thing that has always, I guess, and maybe it's just an excuse that I'm making, but I always hear people talk about still trying to collect on insurance money from their house when it comes to Hurricane Maria.
Yeah.
How does that add to the equation for you? How do you mitigate that risk? Is it something that you've experienced yourself?
Yeah, so we're a bit different, right? We have self-insured for like 20 years. So about 20 years ago, we stopped buying insurance. And the reason that we did that was because you generally don't need the insurance. And we were doing such a high volume that we figured if we had something bad happen and it cost us a bunch of money, we would be actually saving money. And so that's proven to be very true for us, in particular Florida. But then also on the island, if I'm buying a block house like we're in here, and it's pretty much indestructible, right? Like, so short of a big storm or something like that coming and knocking it down, a tree falling on it, I'm gonna have just regular repairs. So we have done the self-insurance thing, and it's been really great for us. So, and the other thing is, we don't really borrow a lot of money. And so when you borrow money, you'll almost certainly be required to have insurance. But I know that's probably not the answer you were expecting, but
I think it's great, actually.
For us, our thought is that if a storm comes or if something bad happened to an area, we're now going to have another opportunity to buy some stuff that's distressed, and we like to buy stuff and then fix it up.
Yes.
So we see it as an opportunity every time, right? Like, it's just, that's what we've done for 25 years. We're always looking for the distress. So after a big storm in Florida, we would go in and buy some properties. We did that with Maria, or if you see, any kind of distress, hoarders, fires, divorce, whatever it is, that pretty much is what we're looking for, is something that's distressed.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
Excellent. So do you speak Spanish, and how, because for me, there's that extra challenge when it comes to making investments on the island, not being fluent. What's your experience been like?
I came to the island I couldn't speak a word. And I think it's important when you move somewhere to try to fit in culturally. And so learning the language is important to me. And I have to say, I'm a really bad student. Adon is a very good patient teacher. And I think my Spanish is getting better, but it's still atrocious. But I make an effort every day to try and speak Spanish, and so I can order food and I can talk to the guys on a job site. I can read a lot of Spanish now. So I've taught myself or been taught by others as we've gone along. And I think it's important. The way we got around it when we first came to the island, we were always partnering with locals, right? So that was sort of our thesis, was we didn't have the data that we talked about. So how do we know that we're going to be safe to buy an investment? And I've got this out on other content, but what we did is we called, I think, 12 different real estate investors / real estate agents and asked them to show us deals, properties, and then invited them to partner with us. And we had about half of them that just said, no, we're just real estate agents and we just sell stuff. And we didn't do those deals. And we had half of them, there were 6 that I can think of, that said, great, I'd love to be a real estate investor. I don't have a lot of money, but here I've got 10 grand plus my commission, and I'll go in with you and I'll take a portion. And so we partnered with those 6 locals right from day one.
Wow.
And so that helped us with the language, because math is my second language, and most people in investments, they speak math. And we still do business with those guys and girls. So
excellent.
Yeah.
And so when I watch your videos, you talk about a fund that you have. You also talk about, people that have a potential property to invest in, and you're open to hearing what that property's like, what the numbers are. What are different ways that you're open to partnering with people?
Oh, that's cool. Yeah. So that's a big portion of why we do the YouTube channel, is to expand our business, and we expand through partnerships, right? So we are a very small company. It's my wife and I, my business partner Dave, and his wife Carol. And then we have a few key people that work with us. And the way we're able to kind of do more and more projects is by inviting talented people to partner with us. So we look at partnerships like, if you are watching this and it's your dream to come and run a 25-room boutique hotel, and you reach out to us on the flipflopflipperpr@gmail.com, we can talk about a partnership like that. And so we've done partnerships like that, where somebody is from a background of running hotels, and that's not really my dream. Like, right, I don't want to sit down at a property and invite people and check them in and check them out, but other people are good at that. And so we've partnered in that way. Of course, we partner with people who have money. We love to partner with people who bring deals. So one of the big things is that on the island, people will bring us deals and they'll say, we inherited this, and me and 6 of my cousins, we own this together and we don't know what to do with it. And we've partnered with people like that as well, where they bring opportunities to us, and we have some capital or we have some experience, but we will do any kind of partnership that's beneficial for both parties, right? Like, so we're looking for like-minded people, and for us, it means you have some money or you have a skill set, right? And then, or a deal. And we'd love to partner with people like that. And that has been really, really successful for us. And I think really successful for the people that have partnered with us, right? Like, that's sort of our mindset, is that we've always done a big volume. I've never thought too much about any one deal being the life-changing investment. I think that if you do enough stuff, you'll have some things that go really well, you'll have some stuff that goes moderately well, and you may even have a bad one in there. But through volume, it's a game changer. Like, I say real estate is a get rich quick. If you give yourself 12 hours a day for 10 years, you're going to get rich quick overnight one night. I'm just not sure which night. And you're going to have some fun doing it. I love real estate. I like putting the deals together and all of that stuff.
So from that perspective, for example, let's say that I find a property that I think is a really great opportunity. Let's say I have half of the capital to invest in this property.
Yeah.
And so, for example, you always talk about the 50-50 split.
Yeah.
So you're bringing, in some cases, to the deal capital or the experience with the general managers. So what can people kind of expect?
That's a great question. So like last night, I looked at a property in Carolina, and a couple of guys had this property in mind that they wanted to buy it. And I go look at everything. So I went and looked at it, and I'm telling them, hey, you guys, you're getting this at a good price. And he looks at me and he says, would you like to partner with me? I said, sure. I'll put up half the money, you put up half the money. we've got crews of people that can do some stuff, and maybe we can push some of the work off on you, right? And we're gonna probably buy that property with them. It's a foreclosure, and it'll be our first attempt to go to the foreclosure sale on the island, but that is one of the things we've done for a really long time. So that's interesting to me as well. So exactly what you just said, that's the kind of partnership we're looking for.
Okay.
And when I went there, I didn't go there expecting that he would offer to bring me into the deal, right? I go there just because I like to look at stuff. And he asked, hey, would you look at this with me and tell me what you think of it? And it happened to be in a neighborhood that I knew pretty well. So when we got there, I was like, I instantly sort of knew, yeah, this could be pretty good. So yeah, that's the kind of partnership that we're looking for. And hopefully we'll get to buy that house, and it'll be a easy buy, fix, and rent, long-term rentals. You know, no tax credits, no big moving parts. Just a simple, good neighborhood, distressed property, fix it up, rent it out long-term, and we'll hopefully go to the bank, pull the money out, and let it pay for itself.
Excellent.
Yeah.
So when I visualize the housing market in Puerto Rico, like visually, like on a chart, if I'm looking at like a Bitcoin chart, I feel like, Hurricane Maria was like capitulation. Yeah. And then the market, spiked. So, and then it's come down a little bit, from that top is kind of what I'm sensing when I, just randomly see on Facebook, like properties in Dorado Beach. And, that's an outlier, of course. And most scenarios, that's stuff that you're not even really interested in. So where do you kind of see the market going in the next, couple years?
Well, I think you're right. So especially in Dorado, I think those really expensive things kind of just exploded, and they went like a Bitcoin, right? It just went overnight up from, I think, someone buys a house for $3 million, and the next thing you know, they're at 15 million or something. It was ridiculous. And that has sort of come back down, and I think will continue to come back down for the next couple of years, depending on what goes on with the banking system. It could go faster than that. We'll see. I think if the banking system gets really bad in the States, it'll be really bad here for Puerto Rico. That's unfortunately a reality, is that if the U.S. sort of goes through hard times, then Puerto Rico goes through much harder times. So I'm a bit concerned about that. What I'm not concerned about is buying a house for 50 grand and thinking that it's worth 120 or 130 grand. Like that FHA working class property, it didn't have a huge run up, and it isn't going to have a huge downturn because real estate's not going to go to zero, right? So there's some value that will always be there with it. And so that's the investments that we like to do most of the time. I like to do investments that if it goes badly, it doesn't sink the boat. And so, and that's what we've always done, right? Now, I wish I had bought some properties in Dorado when I first came here 5 years ago, because it would have made millions of dollars. But you can always do better looking backwards.
Absolutely. It's funny to see that people came here for other tax incentives, and then before you know it, their biggest gain is just by buying a place in Dorado Beach and turning around and selling it for 8x of what they purchased it for.
It was crazy. Yeah.
Like nothing I've
very
ever seen.
Quickly, like very much like the blockchain stuff. And I hadn't seen that before. Like I remember looking at some stuff in Palmas del Mar, and we could have bought like 50 properties, and I thought, well, if we did this, we'll probably make money, but we might have a 5 or a 6 year runway before we can liquidate all of this stuff. And someone else did it, and they liquidated everything in like 5 months, right? Wow. And they did like a 5x. So it was, I don't know everything. So
yeah. I've heard you mention in your previous videos about opportunity zones, and you mentioned that's 98% of the island, which is a scenario of you can sell these properties in 10 years and not pay any capital gains, which is, I think I heard another one of your videos, someone talk about it like a cupcake. There's the cupcake, then there's the whipped cream, and that's just like the little cherry on top. Yeah, which I love. I love that analogy. When there's that 2% of zones that do not qualify, are those like some obvious areas like Ashford Avenue? How does that zoning work?
Yeah, it is pretty obvious.
Okay.
It is Ashford Avenue. Okay. It is Dorado Beach. It is Old San Juan, maybe. Old San Juan might even still be in the opportunity zone. And the surprising one is Ceiba out in like Roosevelt Roads that used to be the Navy base. So that's a big portion of the 2%. Isla Verde is another one, a portion of it. So depending on the side of the street you're on, you can be inside or outside of it. But basically, if you get out of San Juan, it's an opportunity zone. And for your audience, if they haven't heard of or seen opportunity zones, because they're relatively new, and they are without a doubt the very best way to grow wealth that we've ever been given. Like this is game changer for the common man, right? Like there's always great incentives for the really large, really wealthy, but this is like everyday investor type, regular people who invest in 401ks. Maybe you do a 1031 exchange. And if you haven't learned about opportunity zones, you really need to educate yourself, because we're given this once in a lifetime opportunity where it's not a deferment of tax. So the 401ks, the 1031 exchanges, eventually the government comes and taxes you. This isn't that. This is complete avoidance, right? So there will never be a tax on the gain if you do things right. So you have to jump through all the hoops, set everything up correctly, invest in the right spots, and make sure that you don't kill your fund by investing outside of the opportunity zone. But if you can do it all and do it all right, at the end of 10 years, let's say you sell something like a Bitcoin the next time it has the bull run, and you have a big gain, and you put all of the gain into the fund, and then you have another big gain over a 10-year period of time. That new gain will never be taxed. So for you, the Bitcoin gain won't be taxed because of Act 22, but for most people, there would be that initial gain, and they would eventually have to pay that initial tax, but they get a deferral, and then it's all of the new gain. So if you put $1 million in and it becomes $25 million in 10 years, you pay no tax on $24 million.
Wow.
And that's life-changing. I mean, that's generational wealth building. I've never seen anything like that before. You don't have to move to Puerto Rico. You don't have to live in the opportunity zone. You just have to set it up correctly and invest in the right stuff. And it doesn't even have to be real estate. So it can be businesses too.
Oh, wow.
It could be someone who's got a car rental business, right? And you are inside of an opportunity zone, and you start out with one car, and then at the end of 10 years, you've got 3,000 cars that are being rented, and you have a massive business, and you get to liquidate that business and not pay a tax. So no capital gains tax.
Wow, I'm learning a lot today. So is this separate from under Act 60, the capital gains? So this is not like you're having to make that $5,000 charitable contribution every year. This is completely separate.
Completely separate. And so this is stateside stuff. There's an opportunity zone in every town in USA, so it's much smaller. It's not going to be 98%, which is one of the things that makes Puerto Rico so attractive, is that you do have to make sure that you invest in the right stuff. And part of the way that you could kill your fund would be investing outside of an opportunity zone, which in Florida might be very easy to do, but in Puerto Rico it would be very hard to do, right? It would be very easy to stay inside of the zone and grow your business. Where if you had a pizza shop in Florida and you're in the opportunity zone in Orlando, and then you open up a second pizza shop and it's outside of the opportunity zone, it could eliminate your ability to have the tax-free gain. Does that?
Yes.
I mean, so this is really, really important for Puerto Rico, because it's just a complete outlier. 98% of the island being an opportunity zone is a really, really big deal. That means that you can buy A+ properties near the ocean, couple it with tourism tax credits or young entrepreneurs or export services, and combine these things and grow these massive businesses. Hopefully, I believe that somebody is going to do that, right? Like they're going to have the car rental business I talked about, or a string of pizza shops, and it's just going to be wildly successful, and then they're going to completely change their lives and their entire family's lives. So it's exciting.
It is exciting. And after you speak about this, I come into this with seeing so much opportunity in Puerto Rico. And then you add this whole new element that I had no idea about, which just creates even more opportunity. So it's unbelievable how unique it
and it's
really
for
is.
the local population too.
Absolutely.
I mean, I just can't stress this enough,
it's
because everybody believes, that's just for the gringos. I don't really like that word, but it's just for people from the States, and that's just not true. This is local law. Anybody who has a business or wants to start a business, it's not easy. You have to jump through hoops like anything, and dealing with the government can be difficult, but so worth it.
When was this opportunity zone introduced? Is this a
2018,
Oh,
I think
wow.
was the very first time
Okay.
that it became
Wow.
like sort of a thing. And then by like 2019, it was mostly hashed out. So it's really new, really, really new.
So it's actually extra important for locals to understand, because it seems like there's some paperwork on the front end,
Yeah.
some knowledge to know on the front end to be able
Yeah.
to take advantage on the back end of that.
Exactly. You have to set it up. Just because 98% of the island is opportunity zone, that doesn't mean that every business is going to be able to be sold
Yes.
at a tax-free event,
Yeah.
right? It has to be identified as a QOZB, a qualified opportunity zone business, and you have to do that ahead of time. So,
Gotcha. Okay, so yeah, that's super important for locals to
Yeah.
understand that is.
and there's other rules, like you have to create jobs. You have to do significant improvements in most cases. I mean,
Okay.
there's lots of sort of moving parts to it. Like this
Gotcha.
isn't the easiest way to start a business or invest, but if you hit it out of the park, then you really get to keep everything, which taxes are the biggest expense that you're ever going to have in your life, and you know this as an entrepreneur, and this is a complete, just a free bite at the apple, I think. So
Absolutely. So when it comes to Puerto Rico, it's full of challenges.
yeah.
And from someone doing real estate, when it comes to like short term and managing properties versus general contractors completely renovating an entire building, what are some of the biggest challenges, and how do you work through those?
Okay, yeah, so there's challenges everywhere that you invest in
Yeah.
real estate. Puerto Rico kind of makes those challenges take longer, and labor is difficult sometimes on the island. Certainly sourcing materials at different times of the season that we've been here in the 5 years. I mean, I can remember a season where we couldn't get windows for like 6 months. It was
Wow.
that's just the thing that happens, I guess, when you're on an island. Everything's sort of a little more difficult. Like I can remember in Florida, we would buy a new property and I would say to my assistant, "Hey, can you get the power turned on and the water turned on?" And she would say, "That's going to take me an hour." And I can remember going, "Yeah, I know, that sucks. This is awful." And then you come here and you try to do the same thing, and it's like, that could take a month.
Yeah. 30 days later.
That could
still
take a
no
month, and it
running
could take
water.
10 trips, and it's everything's kind of harder. My experience is that it's just always worth it at the end of the day, and so I encourage people all the time, if you're thinking about buying something in Puerto Rico or starting a business in Puerto Rico, I say do it. You're going to be successful if you're willing to put the time in and really just keep going until you get it done. I'm gonna later on, hopefully I'll get to ask you about how you've started businesses, but I assume you have some similar type thoughts on that. So
Yeah, absolutely. Well, thank you so much for sharing all of your knowledge. And I know there's a lot of people on my channel that have been so interested in real estate on the island. And hopefully this turns into maybe a partnership with someone that's been watching my videos, sees your expertise and all your knowledge when it comes to real estate on the island. And it could turn into some great partnerships that are win-wins. I'm all about the win-win. So
yeah,
if this could be a way to facilitate that, that would be amazing.
that would be cool. That's what we're here for, guys. We like to invite partnerships, and you can find us at the Flip Flop Flipper on YouTube. The
Excellent.
Flip Flop Flipper. Robbie Crager, the Flip Flop Flipper. We're out there. We put out a lot of content about real estate in Puerto Rico. So
Yeah, so if you guys would like to see part 2 of this video, head over to his channel, and I'll go and put a link down below so that you guys can find that very easily. Trust me, you're gonna love his channel. There is so much content when it comes to Puerto Rico, opportunities here on the island, and just an abundance to learn. So thanks for all that you do.
awesome. Thank you so much, Mariah.
My
I was
pleasure.
really glad you reached out. I'm
Yeah.
excited. Thanks
Cool.
very much.
Pleasure.